What are you doing, buddy?
Trying to catch a little supper. I think we're onto something here.
Yeah, look at the action. Master angler of the shad. See how he's working that? First shad of 2019! First shad of 2019! Woohoo! 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 Woo! All right, quit reeling. Yeah, Rocky. We're good. So very. Is he? All right. Oh no, that's not even fishable. There we go. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay guys, we're back at the house to do some explaining of the gear. All right, so for the gear, the reel that I use for these shad is the Abu Garcia X20, 8-pound mono. 8-pound really works well casting these really small lures, and you know, really brings out the action in those spoons and those darts. You know, when shad fishing, I would say, you know, you really kind of want to use anywhere between 4 to 8 pound. You can run braid as mainline, but I definitely would not recommend that when you're tying your lures on. So you pretty much want to have like a mono leader that has, you know, your lures tied to it. Because if you run in braid, you're going to find that, you know, you're going to be pulling out wind knots, the lures are going to wrap around each other, and it's just going to give you, you know, a big headache. We want to catch fish, not headaches. In the description below, I will leave my link for the video I made on how to make the 2-piece shad rig. So I've ran into another issue. Little Muppet dog barking at me. All right guys, so the rod that I'm using is a Berkeley trout rod. It's a 7-foot rod. Don't have to go that long. 7-foot really seems to help me out being able to, you know, really fling those small lures out there. Sometimes you got to reach the fish. Look at that action! Look at that action! Oh, shit. Being able to cast a little bit further really helps out. We have 2 Muppets now. I tend to, in general, set the hook pretty hard. So the action on this rod, pretty forgiving on that, you know, especially running like smaller line. So when I really set the hook, I mean, the rod bends really well, so you know, I'm not snapping off. Okay, so you don't really need a whole bunch of line capacity for the shad. You could even run, you know, something a bit heavier than this setup, but I've found when I've tried using larger setups, I don't get the same action in the lures. But again, you could use the heavier setup and just kind of wrench them in, but for me, this has caught the most fish. It makes the actual fight, you know, a lot more enjoyable, to me at least. Sometimes you want to feel what the fish can do, and a setup like this really allows you to do that. Something else to keep in mind is when you're running a smaller setup and a lighter setup, if you plan on, you know, being out there fishing for a while, setup like this is not going to burn you out. I don't know what I've started, but now there's like 6 different dogs barking now. All right, now we're going to talk about the baits. It's mostly spoons and shad darts is what I use. Like I said, I usually use the 2-piece shad rig. The main thing to remember when doing that is always have the spoon as the end. You want that trailing, whether it's a weight in front or a shad dart in front. You want the heavier thing to be closer with this little guy trailing behind it, because this, you know, these things are made to flutter around, and if you have, you know, something behind it that's heavy, it's not gonna have the same action. My go-to for the shad dart color would be, you know, silver or gold. I've found that those are the most productive, but you know, you have different colors for different conditions. If you want to go the cheaper route, you know, I've found that using a jig head with, you know, a little grub attached to it replaces the shad dart, and then I use one of these little guys to kind of replace the spoon. I mean, these things, you know how cheap these are, but these, I think this is like 55 cents for 2 of them at Walmart. So I mean, a lot cheaper than 2 of these for like, geez, I think they're like $5. So we're gonna go back to the river right now, and we're gonna start fishing. At the river, something I wanted to point out, since we are fishing on somewhat of a wall or a you know, a higher point, you know, the water's moving pretty well right out here. It's a little bit deeper, so one thing that I'm going to change up is I'm gonna add a weight in front of the shad dart, get those lures to go down a little. If you're throwing them out there without any weight on them, they're gonna kind of stay near the top, and the water's just gonna keep it up top too. You know, a way to kind of fish it a little bit better, get it down in the water column a little bit better, is to add weight. Like I said, add the weight if you need to cast it out further, especially in a place like this, fishing from a little bit higher. You want to have that weight just so the lures can sit down a little bit. Kind of the most important thing about shad fishing is make sure that the shad are around. Different places they have different shad runs, but typically here in Richmond we get them, they really start showing up like mid-late March. I mean, I know like, yeah, like sometimes you can get some a little bit earlier, but they really start showing up mid to late March, and then, you know, they're here for a few months. All right, so pretty much after I'm casting it out, you know, you got to figure out where the fish are at. If they're real low, if they're real high, you know, there's nothing there. Next time you cast it out, you might want to let it sink a little bit more before you start your retrieve. Pretty much all I'm doing here is, you know, a slow, steady retrieve, especially for the colder water temperatures. What I found really works for me is once you cast it out, and once you decide to start bringing the lures back in, just give it a couple bumps. Every time you give it a couple bumps, you got to catch back up with the slack in the line so you can feel the fish. So a lot of times you'll see when I'm hooking up on fish or these shad is, you know, I get a bite right after I do the bump. So if you do the bump and your line slack, you're not going to feel the bite as well as if you catch up to the line real quick after you do the bump. I keep my rod tip down, helps me feel the fish better. So once I feel it, you know, set the hook and then, you know, reel in your fish. You got to keep tension on the line at all times after you have your fish on there, because they'll pop off real easily. So yes, these are a great species of fish to go for, especially, you know, if you live near a river and that river comes from the salt water. You know, more than likely over here on the East Coast, you're getting the shad run at some point. They are really fun to catch on the light tackle. I personally catch them just to use them for cut bait for, you know, the striped bass. Those videos are to come. They're not really shad. I don't know. Shad really aren't something that are known to be like good for table fare. Like, it's not really something people eat. That being said, if you're catching them for bait, if you run across a pregnant male, if you run across a pregnant female, do your best if you can, release her back into the water, let her lay her eggs. But I know some of y'all catch the hickory shad just so y'all can pull the roe out and eat it. You sick bastard! That will have to be a catch and cook. So there's tons of different ways to catch these fish. That's just the way the techniques that I, really use to catch them. You know, there's not really a wrong way. I mean, you can just throw a sabiki on if you really wanted to and just kind of, but those things get wrapped up, you get one fish on, the line hooks are all over the place. I don't know. As of now, the hickory shad, the American shad, they're really not in yet, or at least I haven't found them. I don't know, I don't think the water temperatures are quite right yet. It's still too cold. But I was just getting, questions about, even from last season, like how do you go about catching the bait fish or the hickory shad or the American shad? You can't use the American shad. Don't get that confused. You cannot use the American shad for bait. Yeah, since I had the questions, I wanted to go ahead and get this video made and out, so that way, it can be utilized, since the shad season's right around the corner, or pretty much here. If you want to see, what this video tips and the techniques, if you want to see that in action, check out the link below. It's my Walmart shad fishing challenge video. You'll see exactly what I was talking about in this video. I utilized in that video, and that was last season. And I was using a Zebco spin cast. And if you want to learn how to tie the rig, at least how I tie the rig for the shad dart, the shad spoon, check out the link below. It's a video I made last season. All right, guys. Well, I hope that video helped you out. If it did, help me out by giving the video a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you have a question, a comment, a video suggestion, type it in the comment section below. I will answer your questions. I always answer your questions. Before I head out, I also wanted to just apologize for the wind noise. That's why I came home to do the gear audio, and still it was trash because the wind was just blowing everywhere. Things are about to change. I have some stuff that should be in the mail. I have the stuff in the mail to resolve the wind noise issue, and I have some stuff that should even bring better video quality. Till then, I will see you soon. All right, guys.